Settle down, inshallah. Take one and one for the workshop. Alhamdulillah, it's a great pleasure, great honor. We have so much from ulama, so much from Ustads, and others. For the very, very noble gathering on how to improve ourselves as Ustads, as educators. So, inshallah, before we commence, we start with the recitation of the Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة أيحسب الإنسان أن لن نجمع عظامه بل قادرين على أن نسوي الإنسان ليفجر أمامه يسأل أيان يوم القيامة فإذا برق البصر وخسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر يقول الإنسان يومئذ أين المفر كلا لا وزر إلى ربك يومئذ المستقر ينبأ الإنسان يومئذ بما قدم وأخر بل الإنسان على نفسه بصير ولو ألقي معاذيره لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه فإذا قرأناه فاتبع قرآنه ثم إن علينا بيانه كلا بل تحبون العلم وتذرون الآخرة وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة ووجوه يومئذ باسرة تظن أن يفعل بها والتفت الساق بالساق إلى ربك يومئذ المعقول فلا صدق ولا صلى ولكن كذب وتولى ثم ذهب إلى أهله يتمطى
inspires us. And the beauty of the Quran is that it's never ending in terms of the knowledge of the ulum. It's never ending. And today's presentation has to do with us as muallims, muallimeen, ustads, appas, mulanas, sheikhs, on how we can improve ourselves. And one of the topics that we looked at was what mindset should we have. And I would like to touch on this, that we as ustads, alhamdulillah, we are very fortunate, we are extremely fortunate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen us for such a noble vocation. Indeed, we are truly blessed. Our reward will be seen in the akhirah. When that child that we taught Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Ikhlas, every time they are reciting that surah, that dua, we are getting thawab, it's accruing to us. So we have to really appreciate and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you have some time, let us take out 2 rakats of salah, let us perform 2 rakats of salah, just to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this opportunity. It's not from our own choice, but it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is choosing us for this noble venture. So with this comes also a great responsibility. We as Ustad, we have a great responsibility. We also need to ensure that that child that comes to us, we fulfill the rights of that child. We see to the rights and we ensure that we give the best quality education to that child. I would say it will be that the child is with us for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 2 hours per day, and yet we do not fulfill the right of the child. And this workshop is about us improving ourselves so that we can fulfill this great amanah. So we can fulfill our rights to that learner. How important this ta'aleem, this primary Islamic ta'aleem is. You all know about the challenges our youngsters face, the pressures that they are facing in school. The madrasa time is constricting. So we need to actually up our game. We need to improve ourselves. And last week, we were in Cape Town with Mulana Yusuf and Mulana Kakasab, and we were presenting a similar presentation for the Ustads there. And there was a professor that also addressed the gathering. He's a professor from UNISA. And what he mentioned, he's a professor that looks at all educators that go through the UNISA system that want to become teachers. So when he went through our material, he said what he finds, and this is purely from his academic point of view, that this, what he sees, doesn't only affect the intellect, but it also affects the heart. It addresses the heart as well. And we can see how wonderful that we are teaching to our learners, not only to their minds, but to their hearts. So we need to up our game. We need to become better ustads. And we, alhamdulillah, we have so much of senior ulama here that we can share ideas with. What we're looking at is that whatever we want to find, whatever we need to look at to better ourselves, there is nothing better than looking at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and looking for our inspiration from the Quran. There is nothing better than that. Alhamdulillah, the professor gave a wonderful presentation. But if you study him closely, if you have to study different methodologies, it is as if they have taken out their methodologies from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the more you study, the more you will realize all we have to do is actually go back to the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to the Quran to get our inspiration. So inshallah we'll look at this, that how we can improve ourselves from and look at the teaching methodologies from the Noble Quran. There are 2 parts to this. One is teaching methodologies from the Noble Quran, and one is from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think last year we did do this presentation, if I'm not mistaken. But because there's so many new people, it's only warrants that we redo this presentation for us to understand our basis comes from the Quran, our inspiration comes from the Quran. So why the Quran? Because preserved as revealed, it's the most read book in the world. Although we know it's a kalam of Allah, it is factually correct. There are no contradictions. It's a guide for humanity, and it's divine. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there can be no blemish on it. So we need to therefore look at the Quran. What we have done with this seminar is taking out. Inshallah, this presentation will be put up onto our website and then we can download it afterwards. If you want to make notes, you can also make notes. If you look at the Quran, amongst the methodologies, Mulana, you must keep my time. Teaching using questions. So if you look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks questions. Sometimes it's rhetorical. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks the question. Thereafter Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers the question. Now if you look at research, what it shows that sometimes the most effective way of speaking to a person or addressing someone or to stimulate their mind is to ask questions. So if you come to your learner, you can tell the learner, for example, the sun is yellow or the sun is orange. But if you ask the learner, what color is the sun? What color is the moon? Now the learner has to now go back into their mind. So it activates a greater part in their mind and they start to think about it. So what we encourage is that before you start a lesson, inshallah we will do presentation of a lesson, start with a question, ask the question, create some discussion. And you will find that just asking questions, it encourages active participation, it stimulates the thinking of the learner, and you can also use it as an aid to assess the learners. Does everyone understand? At the back, you see, I just done an assessment now. So I can gauge those that are listening, those that are still getting into it. Another important part is teach by repetition. And this is the mother of all learning, because to truly become a master in what you want, you have to keep on doing the basics over and over and over and over. No, research has proven that one is someone that just does something, one is someone that becomes an expert, a master, he masters what he does. So research has found there's something called the 10,000 hour rule, 10,000 hour rule. And this research has found that people that do a certain action for 10,000 hours, they'll become a master of what they do. So if we look at it, just for us to master one subject, it will take us quite a few years. If you do 2 hours per day of teaching, divided by 10,000, it's quite a long time before we can say we have reached the level of mastery. So we need to do things over and over and over, also with our learner. Once you teach a lesson to the learner, within research has shown that by the next day, 80% of what they have learned, they have forgotten. So if I've done a wonderful presentation, if I do this presentation, by tomorrow I can guarantee most of us, 80% of what we have done today or what I have spoken, we have forgotten. So that is why we have to recap all the time. And research has found that after you do a lesson, have a 5-minute recap, a 10-minute recap, the next day, even if it's 2 minutes, just go over that lesson, the previous lesson. When you're starting a new lesson, start from the previous lesson. So there's a build, there's a follow-through. Then 1 week after the lesson, 1 month after the lesson, and then thereafter 6 months after the lesson.
This will also ensure that the knowledge moves from short-term memory into the long-term memory. And that's what we want. We don't want to teach a child the surah just for today or just for the exam, but we want them to know it for the rest of their life. We want it to transcend from the short-term memory into the long-term memory. And using metaphors as well. If you look at the Quran brings so many examples, And the power of examples is that it takes someone from the known to the unknown. Something which they can understand, they can grapple with, to something which to a new concept. If you look at Sahaba Ikram, most of them were uneducated, they had no knowledge, they were very, very simple people, they were Bedouins. But the Quran brings examples from their daily life, and therefore you must know the concept of Tawheed, of Akhirat was foreign to them. They couldn't understand it. The concept of getting a reward, you're doing an action, you're going to get thawab for it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings ayats in the Quran and gives them examples in which they can comprehend. That how, for example, when someone does something, it's like a kernel, and from there you get more and you get more and things will grow. That's how your thawab is going to grow. So using something which is concrete, you start that off with an example and then you grow from there. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses compare and contrast. And this is also a very, very important thing that we can use. That in order to show someone good, they also need to know what's the bad. So we need to keep on contrasting how must you behave in the class, how mustn't you behave in the class. What is good behavior, what is bad behavior. How I should perform salah, how should I stand in salah, how shouldn't I stand in salah. So this is important, and this will stimulate the mind, and the learner will be able to then grasp. So it moves away from just memorization, but now the learner thinks they can actually compare the good and bad, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. Teaching in stages, we all know that there are basic levels that a person needs to move from. So we need to ensure that we don't try to teach everything one day. Inshallah, we will be doing how to do a lesson plan, how to break up your lesson. So that also the Quran wasn't revealed one shot. The Quran also mentions that we never reveal the Quran in one sending down or one wahi, but it was sent over a number of years. And we also need to ensure that the fundamentals are taught well, and thereafter, once the learners master the fundamentals, then they can progress to the next stage. If you do public speaking, then they'll always tell you that in every good speech, there's a good story. Every good speech, there's a good story. And from the beginning of time, for years and years, people have always used stories to educate. Therefore, when we say a story, you will notice that once you start with the story, we start speaking of something that happened. The other day, one of the appas was telling us that she was giving a story, and all the learners, they listened to her. And they all were paying attention, and they just loved when the appa tells a story. And when she stops, then they ask the appa, give us another story, tell us another story. Even ourselves, whether you're a small person or a big person, everyone loves a story, and this brings interest. See, I just gave you a story now, so everyone's face now starting to listen. Teaching by creating interest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes brings wonderful ayats of the Quran, stimulates our interest, creates interest. The professor, he brought a box to the workshop, brought a nice box. In the box, he had a few things, and he asked the participants, what's in this box? What do you think is in this box? And he then took out a ladle, that looks like a lamp, and he took out some other utensils. So he created interest. In the same way, when we come to the class, we need to create interest. You know, when a Ustaad, if you go for assessment and the Ustaad opens his book and he starts reading, you can already say this lesson is going to be a weak lesson. You know, in Africa they say it's fraud. Just by seeing, just when you do an assessment and the Ustad starts reading contextual teaching, you already know that this lesson is weak. So let's stimulate the class, bring charts, bring something, take the learners outside, make it exciting, and teach by giving advice. Sometimes we have an informal discussion with your learners. You remember the learners are like your children. After many years, they probably will come to you. You say, Mulana, do you remember me? And Mulana Yusuf was saying the other day, sometimes learners come to you, you can't even remember them because they've grown up. You only picture that learner when they're small. And they will come to you, but they will remember the advice that you gave them because you become like their parents, you become like their mother, like their father. So sometimes having a heart-to-heart conversation, a sincere conversation out of the kitab, just on practical life, sometimes this is so beautiful. And this is what creates that memory in the child. Also teach by using logic and common sense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings logic and common sense. Mark, I'm going a bit fast through this presentation due to our time. But if you look at certain things, for example, like istinja, you can just use logic and common sense. And you can ask the child if something is messed on the stable and you just wipe it, is it clean? But if you wash it, is it clean? So I used two methodologies. I ask the question and I'm using logic. So very simple. So sometimes bring logic in the class, ask them to figure it out, ask them to understand, ask them to reflect, as we will see in the next one. Pondering and reflecting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also encourages us to see the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. We should reflect on the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One day bring a beautiful picture of a mountain, take them outside, let them look at the roses. And alhamdulillah, they got some mashallah grass I saw the other day there. So take them outside and say, look at this rose, how beautiful. Ask them how many colors on this rose. What different colors are on this rose, how beautiful it is. And let them speak. And then you tell them to think on who created this. From nothing this rose came. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this from a small seed. And see how beautiful, how it beautifies our madrasa. And this is also very, very important, is that we should teach using a person's mother tongue. Sometimes we're saying things that is beyond the level of the understanding of the child. Sometimes our textbooks are so well written, but it's beyond the comprehension of the child. We need to break it down. We need to explain to them in their level how they understand it. That is why the Quran, in terms of its balaghat, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, but also the common person, the ordinary person, they're not so intellectual, you can also understand the Quran. That's how beautiful the Quran is. And teach using the pen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also makes a qasam by the pen and what it writes. It's important that the child should write as well. You know, sometimes already we say type today, but it's the same principle, the child should write because it serves their cognitive memory, it assists them with their understanding, with their comprehension, they can also ponder. So this is something that's also been used throughout the ages. All scholars all had pens, and it's something that we need to also bring into our class. And the last one is that we should encourage learning through reading. This is something that is, I'm sure we all know. How many of us, let me ask this question, how many of us just pick up when we read regularly? No, one is to read your SMSs, but who reads regularly, active reading? See, mashallah, so we can see from here, not much of us are actually actively reading. I think it's something that we need to pursue. We need to read, and we also need to ensure that our learners read, because this is how they're going to learn. After they have passed through our hands, they are adults, their learning needs to carry on, and it's going to happen through self-learning by them reading. So we need to ensure that they get into the habit of reading. And what's also important, this is especially in today's time with the wealth of information, we need to teach them how to discern correct knowledge and false knowledge. We need to teach them how to discern correct knowledge and false knowledge. When you're going onto the website, have a discussion with your child, with the learners. Tell me, is this right? Is this wrong? Don't just read and understand. You get a message coming on a BBM saying this hadith is like this and this. Tell them, verify, go ask your Mulana, come and ask me, go ask the Mufti Sahib. Send a question to the Mufti to ask him if this is correct. Especially in today's time, because of the amount of knowledge, we need to teach our children this very important skill, how to discern knowledge. So inshallah, we coming to the next part of the presentation. Inshallah, Mulana Khalid will enlighten us on how to teach the Quran. If there are any questions, if you go onto this website, www.ashraful.webs.com, just go onto this website, there's a link that's there. So you click onto the link and ask the question, inshallah it will come to us and then we will try to answer it. Okay now.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can you all read Nurul Sharif 3 times, please? Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. My request to ulama to come forward, please. If you can just change our seats to a coming from my life, but more interesting. Always more virtuous. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير إياك نعبد رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير. This page from okay. Yeah, higher. We can just correct our niyyah. Why we are here, we have sacrificed for the cinema amal bin niyat. Maulana has touched on this card here. We need to appreciate ourselves before we start anything else. As Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had said, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلم. And it's important, two things here. If we respect ourselves, others will respect us. If we respect ourselves, others will respect us. In the hadith, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, don't walk in one shoe. If one shoe is broken, don't walk in one shoe. Because you'll be foolish, you'll do something stupid and people will laugh at you. And then if you feel bad, then it's your own fault. So very important that we as Asatiza, like we normally say, learners listen with their eyes. Learners listen with their eyes. We can preach as much as we want to, but if we do something else, it's quite unique where the conference in Victoria, and Dr. Yawar Beg was there, and some of the colleagues were having a association, the males and females of the school. So he commented, if this happens in your corridors in your school, where the Moranas and Appas or the teachers and the female teachers casually talk like this, then you can preach as much as hijab you want, it's not going to have any effect. So we have to respect ourselves. Number two, one is every time rewards. And الدال على الخير كفاعله أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. Every letter that carries, you will get them reward as well. Normally, people ask, what is in it for me? What is in it for me? So if we take Surah Ikhlas alone, that's 40 huruf. Times 10 is 400. You've got 20 in the class, 20 children in the class. If we read Surah Ikhlas together, we just read one time. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Hardly about 10 seconds. And we about maybe 150 or 200 of us times 400. How much reward accumulated? If we teach a class and they keep on reading Namaz a day, others will respect you, appreciate yourself, others will appreciate you. And the next thing, yeah, the greater the niyyah, the greater the energy. The greater the niyyah, the greater the energy. And a simple task can become significant by a niyyah. For instance, if we're going into the masjid to perform salah, we just made wudu, we entered the masjid and we're going to read 4 rakats or sunnah al-mu'akkada or dhuhr. We could make niyyah for tahiyatul masjid, we could make niyyah of tahiyatul wudu, and we could make niyyah of the sunnah. We'll get 3 rewards for 1 hour. You're going to visit your parents, you're buying a gift for them, it's a day that they did something to them, and you make the niyyah, I'm going to make my parents happy. If I see them, Allah will reward me, and Allah will be pleased with me, and the reward, whatever He tells you. So simple, so becomes much more. So if we're doing it for the pleasure of Allah, then whether the instructions are there or they are not there, the supervisor is there or not there, the principal is there or not there, the committee is there or not there, we still do it. Please remember this. We might be working for an institution, but finally we are working for Allah. We might be working for Allah. And over life I've seen this. Those who go the extra mile, Allah reward them also accordingly. Yeah. If we do it for the pleasure of Allah and go the extra mile, this also noteworthy. No sacrifice for Allah goes unrewarded. No sacrifice for Allah goes unrewarded. Promise. Nobody sees it. Nobody knows you did that extra. You pat the child over the shoulder, you went to him, you taught him, you made shukr for him, you made dua for him. Allah knows. And Allah will bring that barakah in your life in this world. Allah is not credit. Allah is not credit. Allah is cash. You will see the barakah in his life. I normally say this. Appas came to us because there was nobody who will and they dedicated. And Alhamdulillah, today the children are either lawyers, doctors, CAs, managers, owners of companies, and they say, Mom, you don't have to go work anymore. We'll give you more than whatever you need. And it's the barakah of that ta'aleem that the lady got up, went to South America is typical. Kamal shows there, they say the old man was there, he married, and the first is himself. The third generation are not Muslim anymore, their names are Joseph and their names are Stanley or whatever else it is. Well, let's stop, please. Bye-bye. Right, so that is why we do it. So the question is, why do we do whatever we do? Always ask this, whether you're driving somewhere, ladies, whether you're cooking a pot of food, or whether you just coming to do something, always I ask why. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا. Do we do things just for the fun of it or just for random? Muslims don't work like that. We